Hello and welcome to this mini lecture on the chakras and their connection to the organs and systems of the body, like the nerve plexuses and the spinal cord, the glands. My name is Siam Pascal, and I'm the founder of The Light Collective. We're an online yoga school. And if you're interested in more of these kind of wisdom talks around the energy body, classical tantra, and also practices, we have a lot of practices here on our YouTube channel, then I highly recommend you subscribe. And we do our best to update when we're not busy doing yoga teacher trainings and our online yoga school. We really try and provide free information out into the world that is as accurate as possible. So what we are drawing upon in these lectures is really coming from our 2 yoga teacher trainings, our 200-hour yoga teacher training where you become a yoga teacher, and our advanced TLC method, which is for yoga teachers or students who want to go really deep into pranayama and kriya. And both of these trainings are pretty have a kind of component around the chakras and the subtle energy body, and we go into a lot more depth than these lectures. So if you're really wanting to kind of dive deep into the classical tantric system of the chakras, then I highly recommend you look at our trainings. But otherwise, we've put together a series of lectures to try and spread the word on a more accurate understanding of the chakras. If you are someone who started to go deep into the chakras and you started to maybe read some books, or you can even find this stuff on Pinterest or Google, or you've done your yoga teacher training, you may have heard that the chakras relate to maybe an organ, they relate to nerve plexus, they relate to glands as well. So the third eye is, I think, something to do with the pineal gland, the throat to the thyroid gland. Some books get specific with the nerves coming from the spinal column. What I want to say is that all of this information is fundamentally, I don't want to say incorrect, but isn't part of the tradition. So this conception of trying to mesh the chakras with a Western anatomical system is in some ways problematic. And I'm going to talk through why. When we draw upon the ancient tantric tradition, that is, when we draw upon the actual tantras, the classical texts themselves, this is where the chakras came from, and you can go back and watch our short history on the chakras, which is part of this little series of YouTube videos that we're doing on the chakras. It can be really great to kind of understand that the chakras were fundamentally a huge part of the tantric tradition, and they wrote many, many texts on them. Across every lineage and all of the thousands of texts, the chakras were purely subtle body phenomena. They never had a relation to a specific organ, gland, body part, body system. They were specifically subtle body phenomena. And because of the nature of being only part of the subtle body, they were mutable, they weren't fixed, they were part of this system which was highly affected by consciousness. So your consciousness was able to kind of transmute, change the form, the structure of the subtle body just through meditative conscious awareness. When this energetic system came to the West in the early 1900s, there was a tendency in the West to try and validate these energetic ideas. And the validation came through correlating them to a rational, scientific, Western anatomical model. This for complex reasons, also happened in India as a way of validating the subtle phenomenological experience of the chakras. This is what makes it really problematic. And this is what you could describe as being part of the colonization of yoga that's happened over the last 200 years. When we start to shift a tradition and validate it so that it aligns with Western ideas, there is a sense that we are making the tradition itself, that phenomenon that came from India, in some ways, we're saying it's not valid. So to be a teacher or a student or a practitioner within the chakras that is working from a non-colonized viewpoint, it's really important that we take the chakras as subtle body phenomena as they are. So to be accepting of the chakras as being purely part of the subtle body would be to be accepting of the tradition in a non-colonized viewpoint. So if you come across books that are describing the chakras from this anatomical perspective, then they are taking on this colonized viewpoint. Not necessarily that we should damn them all, because I think there isn't really a deep understanding from anyone who is encouraging those ideas of the effect that kind of placing Western ideas and principles of the body onto the subtle body. The yogic tradition is starting to change the tradition so it becomes more sanitized, so it becomes more valid for the Western mind. If you are a deep tantric practitioner, there is a sense that there is validity to the subtle energy body because it's phenomenological, it's felt, it's personally felt. So you know it as an experience, a personal experience. And this is the only way that the classical tantrics taught the chakras, always as a subtle body energy. This could be hard for you if you have maybe learnt this in your yoga teacher trainings, or you've read about it in books and they've got all sorts of great anatomical kind of references to them. It was never ever part of the tradition, and it's really up to you whether you're somebody who is deeply embedded in Western anatomy and you want to continue to overlay this idea onto this subtle body system or not. It's all in your hands. But from my end, I want to give you this accurate information. What was tradition? What was innovation? And I also want you to start thinking, hopefully critically, not necessarily critically meaning bad, but as a human, critically thinking is to think, okay, well, is this right or not? How does it sit with me? How does it sit with my values? How does it sit with the tradition? What do I want to teach? What do I want to keep learning? And what do I want to practice? So starting to think critically is difficult at times because it can take you on a path of suddenly you find yourself in India in a Kashmiri library studying Sanskrit for the next 10 years. Who knows what might happen when you think critically? It's often the harder path, but understand and be accurate with your knowledge, especially around yoga, the tantras, and we will do our best as the information comes to us to give you as much accurate information as possible. So if you want to understand a little bit more about the tantric tradition and the chakras, you can obviously watch through this series of lectures or contact us about our yoga teacher trainings, because this is a theme and study and a focus that is really important to us as yogis. I hope that you have been maybe challenged or just enjoyed this lecture. Thank you.